Jian Ghomeshi, Center, arrives for his first day of court in Toronto in February 2016. Mark Blanche Reuters, by Mealy Mitra digital producer email bio digital producer and writer September 17 at 12:58 p.m. The New York Review of Books specializes in highbrow think pieces on culture and society, and prides itself on being an arbiter of good taste. But in its latest issue, the prestigious magazine veered away from its history of thoughtful and rigorous commentary by publishing an ignorant, pandering essay by Canadian former radio host Jian Ghomeshi. For those who don't remember Ghomeshi from his time in the spotlight, he was the popular host of the radio show Q who was ignominiously fired in 2014 after 3 ex-girlfriends accused him of sexual misconduct, including sexual assault and punching and choking women without their consent. Ghomeshi, for his part, always maintained that the sex was consensual and claimed he was shamed and dismissed for his adventurous sexual preferences. He was acquitted in 2016 after a judge ruled that the complainants had changed their stories, but eventually more than 20 women came forward with accusations. Now, Ghomeshi has returned to the public eye with an essay titled Reflections from a Hashtag. Its purpose, according to the essay, is to reclaim and inject nuance into his story. It describes the fallout of the allegations and how Ghomeshi has spent the past 4 years reflecting on his behavior. Though he claims some of the accusations were inaccurate, he acknowledges that he was a player, creep, cad, Lothario who was dismissive of women and part of a systemic culture of unhealthy masculinity. The thrust of the essay can be boiled down to a single line: we learn from our mistakes. But there's one major issue with this redemption story: it fundamentally minimizes the allegations against Ghomeshi and almost entirely erases his accusers' experiences. Ghomeshi was never just a cad and Lothario who enjoyed demeaning women during sex. The allegations run far deeper. While he was never accused of rape, multiple women accused him of violence and assault. Producer on his show, Catherine Borel, claimed he physically and emotionally harassed her for years, while the leadership at the radio station looked the other way. Yet in the essay, Ghomeshi talks about men being bewildered by gender relations and sexual behaviors without ever showing that he understood the scale of his alleged misconduct. So why was Ghomeshi given a platform to reflect on Number Metu when it is clear that he has done very little self-reflecting at all? In an interview in Slate, Isaac Chotiner pushed NERB editor Ian Buruma on his decision to publish the piece. Buruma argued that the story of being a jerk in many ways, and then finding your life ruined, and being a public villain and pilloried was worth hearing, and said that the specifics of Ghomeshi's past misconduct were not his concern. He clarified that the piece was not meant to be a defense of Ghomeshi's actions. But the essay, advertised as Jian Ghomeshi on the magazine's cover, delivered only the gentlest of mea culpas and obfuscated the nature of his allegedly abusive behavior. That might not count as a defense, but it certainly was a diversion, one that the NERB editors had a responsibility to correct. What Buruma and the NERB leadership failed to grasp was that men like Ghomeshi aren't entitled to a nicely packaged redemption arc, and readers won't benefit from having an alleged abuser describe life after being exposed as abusive. At the end of the day, the essay never tackled the tensions brought on by the advent of the Number Metu movement. Instead, it read like a thinly veiled attempt by Ghomeshi to resuscitate his career and relevance. Thankfully, it seems to have failed. In the process of